Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to talk about the marketing and the mindset necessary so you as chiropractors can make more money, increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment too. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about how you can be more valuable to your patients and to your community as well. Now, right back in episode 231, I gave you a framework that talked about how you could communicate your adjustment, your services, in a way that had you be way more valuable. Now, that framework that I shared with you came from a book called $100 Million Offers, and it's a book by a guy called Alex Hormozy as well. Probably for me, one of the more valuable books that I've read in the last couple of years. You don't need to read the book, listen to that episode. Now, I didn't come up with that framework, but I distill it in a way and give you frameworks of how you can communicate chiropractic in a way more valuable way. I think you should go back and listen to that. In today's episode, we're going to step back a little bit and we're going to look more at a 40,000 foot view of your practice. And we will talk more about how your practice can be seen as valuable across the community as well, in terms of what are you known for as well. So in today's episode, I will introduce you to the three key elements that comprise. Man, this talking stuff is tricky, particularly when there's cameras in front of you as well. The three key elements that comprise value as well. Now, for your practice to thrive, you must be delivering value to your patients and, as I said before, your wider community as well. So time for some tough loving here at the moment. If you're struggling in practice at the moment, if you're not thriving, if you're not making the money that you want to be making, here's what I know. Your community and your patients don't see you as valuable. Now, that's pretty tough for me to say, but I know that it's true because if they did see you as valuable, more of them would be coming to see you. Now, this might not mean that you're not valuable. It might mean, and what I think is the case for the most of the chiropractors that I ever get to speak to, is they adjust their community's best kept secrets. Nobody even knows about you, okay? So you've got to be known before you can be valuable. But there are some of you, and I want to be clear about this too, I do love you, but some of you need to get a heck of a lot better at what you're doing. Maybe you're not actually delivering value. Maybe you haven't done any ongoing study for years. You haven't upped your skills. Maybe you're not as good at helping people as what you would like to be or what you should be as well. Now, that might be tough love, but the good news about that is you can improve, okay? And I think deep down we know where the answer is to that. You know, do we need to get better at what we're doing? Or do we need to actually just let more people know about what we're actually doing? So some things to think about. If you're not having the practice, if you're not thriving, if you're not making the income, then somewhere along the line, value is an issue. Now, it may also be that you're missing out on any of these three key elements. It might be that I'll introduce you to in a moment. It might be that you're trying to implement too many of them as well, or it might be that there's no clarity in around them. So let's talk about this as well. First of all, you have to know what these three key elements are. You have to know how to maximize them as well. Now, the three key elements that make up value, sometimes they're referred to as business differentiators or core components. And here's what they are. They are quality, price, and convenience. Okay, now, typically, here's what happens. When we try and maximize one of these key elements, where, for instance, if we try and maximize quality, then it comes at the compromise of something else. As quality goes up, then so too does price, and vice versa. As quality goes down, then price can go down as well. Now, if there are two issues that I see happening in chiropractic practices. One, chiropractors haven't got really clear about what they want to stand for. Okay, now it's very difficult to maximize across all three of these. You need to choose one of them as your pillar, and you can take smatterings of the other one. So first of all, most chiropractors haven't even put a line in the sand that says, look, we want to stand for being the lowest price chiropractor, or we want to stand for convenience, or maybe you want to stand for quality, or second is that we try and take bits and pieces from all of these and we compromise and we end up being none of them as well. So two mistakes. First of all, not deciding what you want to be, and then second, trying to compromise across all of them. So let me give you some example of some businesses that have succeeded across all of these. In fact, another point there too I want to touch on as well. There's no hierarchy in these competencies. And what I mean by that is there's not one that's better than the other. There are businesses, as I'll give you some examples, that have become billion-dollar businesses from maximizing one of these three as well. So, for instance, convenience, McDonald's is the example I'll give you as well. Quality, we'll choose Mercedes-Benz, and price, Walmart, or over here in Australia, Big W, we'll talk about as well. So you can have a very successful, enjoyable, impactful practice by maximizing any one of these three, okay? You will run into trouble if you try and maximize all of them. But let's dive a little deeper into each of these. Let's talk about what convenience might look like in the terms of McDonald's, and what could you borrow from that if you've decided that that's the strategy for you in your practice as well. Convenient can be one of those words. Let's look at a kind of a definition of it first. Often when we define that word, we come up with terms like easy, fitting in well with a person's needs, not difficult, okay? McDonald's is that to a lot of people. Now let's not, I know I'm talking to a lot of chiropractors here. You might never go to McDonald's, but understand the vast majority of the world does go along, and the vast majority of the world loves it, okay? So when we think about what about McDonald's is convenience, how does it show up for them? Well, mostly they're open pretty much 24/7. They are in most places around the world now as well. It's convenient because you know what you're going to get. Okay, now it's not the best food in the world, it's not the worst food in the world, and even the people who love McDonald's will probably say that as well. But typically it's one of those things that people will say, you know what you're going to get, okay? It's predictable, and that's a thing in terms of it's not difficult as well. There's usually very little wait time in two ways. Like when you're actually ordering the product, the kind of queue as you go up to it, often, the wait is less than a couple of minutes there. And then when you order it, it doesn't take a long time for the food to get to you. That's convenient. That's not difficult. That is easy as well. They're everywhere. They're everywhere all over town, all over the world. You can go to, I'm yet to find a spot. In fact, I have been to some spots where they're not, but they are pretty much everywhere as well. It's somewhere that you can take the entire family. Now, if you look at their advertising, there too, often you see the very young eating there, sitting there with their grandparents. They're really trying to say, this is the family restaurant. Everybody can come here. Everybody is welcome there. Now, we'll talk about that. Might be a strategy that you might not want to have, particularly if you're going for quality and or luxury. Making it inclusive can actually can work against you, okay? It's also affordable by most people, okay? Now, it's not the cheapest food as we talked about before, but it's certainly not the most expensive. And the vast majority of people, families, can afford to eat at McDonald's. These are things that go into convenience. So what might this look like in your chiropractic practice, okay? So first of all, you might want to look at your hours. Are you convenient? Now, for about the last 6 years or so in my practice there too, I worked kind of 2 days a week. And for the last few years, I worked 2 mornings a week. It was anything but convenient. My blessed patients would often complain about it. They say, Angus, you're never here. It's very hard for us to get in and see you. If I was going for convenience, I'm working very much against that. That was not a strategy that I was doing at that stage. Convenience wasn't what my practice was trying to stand for. And I see this all the time when people are asking me, chiropractors ask, what hours should I be open, and how many days should I be open? Well, it kind of depends. What are you going for? If you're going for convenience, when would it be easy for the people to come and see you? In what we notice in our practice in Lara, one of the elements that we are going for there is convenience there as well, is that we need to make sure that we're there early in the morning when people are traveling to work. We need to make sure that we're there in the evening when people are traveling home from work. Now, our chiropractors and our staff don't like starting early, and they don't like finishing late, which is often why we have to do split shifts. But it's not about them, okay? We're asking ourselves what is convenient for our patients. Is it easy to get an appointment? Now, when it comes to your practice, if convenience, can I get an appointment the same day? Certainly if I'm wanting an adjustment there. And if I'm a new patient, how long do I have to wait? If I'm waiting weeks to get in there, that waiting list practice there, I'm going to say that's not convenient. And if you want to be known as convenient, you will lose people because of that as well. And then there's things like, is the parking easy? Is it easy to find your actual building? Are you nestled away in some back street in behind another building? Recently, I had to go and pick up some gym equipment as well. And it was so hard for me to find where this place was. There was no signposts written there too. I had to ask some guy, and he kind of directed me in this area that looked like I was about to be mugged as well. There was nothing convenient about it at all. So where is your practice? Is it easy to find? Is the parking convenient? Is it friendly for the entire family? Like we talked about with McDonald's beforehand. Is your pricing easy and convenient? By that I mean, things like, are there multiple ways that I can pay? Do you make it convenient for me to deal with my insurance? Do you accept lots of different insurances? Now, again, that might open up a lot of different debates, but if you're going for convenience, if that's what you want to be known as, that might be something that you really want to consider. Okay, if our differentiator, our core competency is convenience, we would need to answer questions like this and or have a very good response for why we're not having this as well. If we're all about convenience and we're saying we don't accept insurance, then you would need to be able to communicate that in a way that was convenient to your clients about what's the benefit for them for you not accepting as well. What's the environment like inside your practice as well? Kids areas, change tables, bathrooms nice and clean, all those kind of things. Convenience and easy as well with what you'd want to look at, okay? So that's convenience. Let's look at quality. Let's think about maybe Mercedes-Benz, or maybe, let's even kind of ramp it up. Let's look at Rolls-Royce in terms of quality. And to some extent, I'm going to use these words quality and luxury together there as well. There are elements of both of those that are very similar as well. So if it sounds like I'm dancing between those two words, I'm doing that on purpose as well. Quality or luxury is the degree of excellence of something. Now, particularly when compared with another product or service. So if you're going for quality and or luxury in your practice, then really what you're saying is the level of excellence in our place in here, the level of luxury and quality here is above what it is with the other chiropractors in town. So, you want to imagine one of your patients who's saying, man, you've got to go and see Bill. That place there is just, the quality is amazing. The luxury is incredible. What things would they then say if that's what you stand out for, okay? Quality, luxury tends to be cutting edge. It tends to be kind of new and visually pleasing, There are exceptions for all of these kind of things there too. It's interesting. We're generally much more happy to wait for a quality product. Again, when you go to a beautiful 5-star restaurant and maybe you order the souffle, they might tell you, hey, listen, there's a 30 to 45 minute wait. Maybe you order a big juicy steak. Often they'll say the same thing there. There's going to be a 45-minute wait. We're not going to be waiting for 45 minutes at McDonald's, but when we know that there's a quality food that's coming out to us, when you're going into Mercedes or Rolls-Royce there too, and you want to order a car, if it's a bespoke car, your color, the interior, the way that it's done, that suits all of your needs too, it might be a 6, 12 or 18-month wait for it to get you. And I know there's lots of waits on cars around the world at the moment, but that's for other reasons. But we're happier to wait longer for the product. We pay for not just the product, but when we're talking about quality, there's often an experience in around it as well. When you go into a Mercedes or a Rolls-Royce dealership, when we look at the environment, maybe the coffee that we're offered, the food and snacks, there's a whole environment, there's a whole experience that goes along with it that is part of it. It's not just the buying of the car, it's the experience that goes along with that makes up the quality as well. Now, interestingly, it is quality is synonymous with price. As quality goes up, we want to be paying more price. Now, interestingly, I talk about this right back in episode 231, that by merely increasing your price, you increase perceived quality. Literally, this was done in studies. In fact, you should go back and listen to it, but I'll touch on it now in terms of people were tasting wine where they were told that this was a more expensive wine. The more expensive wine that they were tasting, literally the more the pleasure centers in their brain lit up. Okay, when you charge more and you increase that perceived value, the pleasure centers in your patients' brains actually light up. So they're happy to pay way more, and paying way more actually increases the perceived quality as well. Luxury and quality often have an exclusivity and a scarcity that goes along with it. You're not going to see a lot of Rolls-Royces driving around, and or Mercedes for that matter as well. Now, you're looking at there, we see more Mercedes driving around than Rolls-Royce, and we often have a different level of luxury and quality that goes along with that too. That scarcity is something that adds to the prestige of these products. If we saw lots of Rolls-Royces driving around, then you can bet that Rolls-Royce drivers would be looking for what the next thing is. They want that exclusivity and they want that scarcity as well. So what might this look like inside your chiropractic practice if you wanted to double down on luxury and or quality as well? Now, first of all, your environment would need to reflect that, okay? Think about what it looks like inside the dealership of Mercedes and or Rolls-Royce. If you've never been inside a Rolls-Royce dealership, you should go. poke your head in there sometime and have a look around. I'm sure the staff will be very friendly to you. You'd be quite surprised. But it's very different from what the environment looks like at the used car dealership down on the local corner there, where maybe they've got a couple of tents that you can go into. So a luxury environment, well appointed. The signage, everything is clean and smick as well. As I mentioned before, and there are add-on services. If I'm coming in for an adjustment, can I get a lovely coffee? Can I get a fresh pressed juice as well? What are the magazines like in your practice if you have these? Are they new magazines that don't have the ends of them all kind of dog-eared? Are they magazines that reflect luxury? So rather than Woman's Weekly and New Idea and things like that too, do you have like the Rob Report or whatever equivalent magazines are that just have a sense of luxury and prestige that go along with them? Higher prices. Now, we have to charge higher prices so we can cover the overheads, because the overheads tend to be higher in a quality practice, in a luxury practice. And so we charge higher prices. And remember, as I said before, charging higher prices is something that also goes along with perceived quality. This is something that is important, that we have no compromise inside of that as well. There's an exclusivity around it. So, if I'm trying to get into this luxury practice and I have to wait a little while for an appointment, if I rang up the practice, I got a beautiful greeting there, and I was told that there's a 4-week waiting list. And I had that communicated in a way to us that said, look, the practice here is very good. The work that, Dr. Kanane does is exclusive as well. There is a waiting list for her. The first appointment that we can get you in is in 4 weeks' time. That would go along with, there would be a match there that would happen along with that quality luxury service as well. So you're also less likely and probably not likely to see discount offers and special pricing. Rolls-Royce does not have an end of financial year sale. Okay, they're not having dealership runouts happen. If your practice wants to be positioned as quality and luxury, that's what you're doubling down on as well. You can't be showing up on Facebook every week with your half-price initial consultation and I'll throw in a pillow. They don't match, okay? There is a disconnect that happens there that will ruin your branding. This is the type of things that I see chiropractors doing, is that they're not doubling down on one point from there as well. So there's some of the things that might go into what quality and or luxury might look like inside a practice. Now, price, when I'm talking about price, I'm really talking about low price. High price tends to be kind of synonymous with quality and luxury that I was talking about beforehand as well. Now, again, the key drive here is really simple. It's just cheap. Okay, now along with this though, there are other compromises that we're happy to have as customers. We expect lower quality. If I'm going into Walmart or Big W here in Australia and I'm buying some clothes, I don't expect them to be the same quality as if I might have bought them from a more expensive place. If I'm buying some furniture from there, I'm okay if it doesn't last me as long. If I'm buying a television from these places, I realize that it might not be the same quality and have the same features and benefits of a television that I might get from another more expensive well-known place there as well. What this looks like in a chiropractic practice is really simple, folks. It's you're the cheapest chiropractor in town. Now, often what happens with this is that this is a completely reasonable and very effective strategy for you to have if you're wanting to increase income, impact, enjoyment in practice, is be the cheapest in town. But understand, if you are going for price as your differentiator there too, this probably means that you might need to compromise on some other things. The building where you're at, the quality of the surroundings that you have, maybe what you can afford to pay your staff, the add-on services, they're all okay. Where I see that there's a problem that happens is that chiropractors go about trying to be the cheapest, but they're not decreasing the costs and the overheads in their practice. In the end, they're not making any profit. They feel super resentful. And also, pricing is one of the easiest things for your competitors to duplicate, for somebody else to come into town and say, well, I'm going to be cheaper than you, Angus, cut the prices. And then I have to cut my prices lower to them. And as I've talked about previously in the podcast, we have this race to the bottom as well. So don't think for one moment that I'm saying that you couldn't double down as the key element, the value element that you have being price. You absolutely can, but you need to be a very savvy and good business owner. In fact, you need to be a good savvy business owner across the board, but it's particularly important if you're going to be competing on price. You need to understand where your costs are and where you might be leaking any of these. So the question I want to ask you is, what is your focus? Okay, where are you going to be going with these? You need to primarily pick one. And if you're saying convenience, that doesn't mean that you can't have some pricing to be as low as you possibly can, but we never want to sacrifice convenience for price. We never want to sacrifice convenience for quality. So if you're saying, I'd really like the quality to go up for this, but if that means that convenience is going to be sacrificed, you have one that's always the front of the line of where you go for. That's where you need to start. Now, there is an element too that sometimes is a fourth key element when it comes to value that can run through all of these, and I've kind of dropped bits and pieces, and that's known as service, okay? You can and should have great service through all of these. Just because you are going a lower price doesn't mean that you can't have a friendly face at the front desk. You might have less staff. That might be something that happens there too. But the phone can still be answered in a beautiful way. You can be friendly and caring and considerate. You know, the place can offer great service. You know, McDonald's still has, I'm not sure it has great service, but the service is okay there. You know, mostly it's a friendly smile face. It's a young person behind there. You know, they put a lot of effort into training their staff in terms of how they take your order, the process they go through. And across the board, the service is okay there. And I think it probably could be better, but I think service can be one of those elements. So which of these three is going to be your secret weapon? You know, is your practice going to be all about convenience? Is it all about quality? Is it all about price? Now, if you're wanting to find out where you fit in with these elements, sit down with your staff. Start to ask your patients, where can we improve on this? And remember, double down on one of them, okay? One of them needs to be put ahead of the others, okay? No compromise across all of that. Folks, that's it from me. Until next time, thanks for all you do. Keep saving lives. I look forward to seeing you real soon. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.